How you can go from a data analyst to a data engineer. And if you think about this for a second, this is $1 million opportunity. Here's what I mean by that. If you are currently earning about, let's say 80 grand as a data analyst, and eventually you make 200 grand as a data engineer, that is 100 grand per year. And so over just the next decade, that is $1 million. And so it is actually a very high ROI to invest in yourself and get to that next phase of your career, especially going from an analyst to an engineer, because engineers will always get paid more. So if that is you, if you're a data analyst, I'm going to show you exactly how you become a data engineer in just about 10 minutes in this video. My name is Chris Garzone, by the way. I run the largest data engineering school in the country, Data Engineer Academy. I started my career at Amazon as a data analyst, making 60 grand per year. And 5-6 years down the line, I was making above 400 grand at Lyft as a data engineer. I worked for a startup in between, and now I have my own company, and I've been doing this pretty much full time for the last 3 years. So again, the data analyst to data engineer transition is one we are very, very familiar with, and one that we highly, highly recommend for current tech professionals because there is a lot of demand for data engineers from companies, especially with the whole AI boom going on in 2025. So in this video, I'm going to break down the 3 steps that you need to do in order to make this transition. And number 1 is going to be filling up your skill gaps. Number 2 is filling up your resume and applying to a bunch of jobs, especially by using the real world projects in step 1. And step number 3 is applying and getting a bunch of interviews, but being ready for those interviews from both a technical standpoint and a communication/soft skill standpoint as well. So let's dive in, because step number 1 is one that I think a lot of data analysts want to do, but don't know how to do. So let me explain. Step number 1 is filling up your gaps, right? Enhancing your skills. The problem we see a lot of times is that you as a data analyst might be at a company that is what is called dead end. You might not have mentors. You might not be working on projects that actually enhance your skills, and you might just not know what to do. And I get it. A lot of our clients come to us and they're like, I've been searching on Reddit. I've been searching on Stack Overflow, and I'm just so confused. I don't know what to study. We totally understand. So at a high level, here's what you need to know. SQL, which you probably already do, so that's a plus. Python, which is the least important, so don't spend too much time. Data modeling, which is very important as a data engineer. And then system design / some cloud. We recommend AWS. The data just says that most companies are doing AWS, so just do AWS. But again, if you can learn how to do cloud and pipelines, you will be ahead of the game. And the number 1 thing I actually recommend you learn is behavioral questions. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but the number 1 round we see engineers fail at is actually the behavioral round. And this is because companies know this. Companies know that as engineers, your comfort zone is to study the technical stuff. So when you do show up to an interview, you already are probably overstudied for the technical stuff and understudied for the soft skills, the communications, the leadership part of the interview. So again, make sure to study everything, but make sure to actually weigh it correctly. Python is the least important and behavioral questions is the most important. But having the right skills is only the first part. The other part is how to actually strategize about getting the job. And I think this is where a lot of people mess up because they're worried about getting the skills. So they're doing all these certificates and courses and reading all these books. But that takes 2, 3, 4, 5 years, right? Fundamentally, this is why Data Engineer Academy has been so successful, because all we're really doing is expediting the timeline. We're taking everything that you would be learning on your own for 5 years and making it so that you can learn this in 5 months. So let's dive in to step number 2, which is how to strategize actually getting the job. So we at Data Engineer Academy are big believers that applying in volume is a very, very, very okay strategy. Like, it's a decent strategy. And I think people get a lot of flack or give a lot of flack on social saying like, oh, I've applied to 100 jobs, I should stop. Or you see influencers, I think, saying all the time like, hey, if you're applying to a bunch of jobs, you're doing something wrong. And it's like, well, depends how you're doing it. So let me explain. The first thing you need to do is actually optimize your resume. And when I say optimize your resume, it means with real world projects. Because if you put on your resume, hey, I did this Coursera certificate or this Udemy certificate. Again, we've seen the data. We've talked to 100,000 people at this point, and everybody just has Coursera, Udemy on their resume. It doesn't make you stand out. Now, again, if you have experience, great. That experience is going to make you stand out more than anything. But there's this middle sweet spot of people who can do real world projects and actually get interviews from it. Because at the end of the day, the companies don't care if you have a certificate, they care if you have skills. And if you have the ability to articulate the projects that you have on your resume and articulate it on the interview, they're going to say, well, you know what? This person has skills. So update your resume with up-to-date projects on the newest technologies. Right now, it's probably Snowflake, Databricks, DBT, and Kinesis/Kafka, some real-time streaming tool. Now, the next part of that is applying in bulk. You can use automation tools. The problem with automation tools is you might not be able to personalize each resume. So honestly, I think blocking off 2-3 hours a day and just applying, brute forcing it is your best bet. And what I would encourage you to do is to not get emotional about it. Meaning if you apply to 100 jobs and you get 2 jobs, the truth is you might as well just apply to 200 more jobs because then you get 4 more interviews. And in total, that's 6 interviews. And out of those 6 interviews, you can probably get a job offer. And I think what happens is a lot of people get emotional because applying to 300 jobs and seeing 294 rejections can be emotionally tough and challenging. But at the end of the day, you only need one. You only need one job offer. And yes, you can spend your time tweaking your resume and A/B testing it and doing all this. So the other thing I encourage you to do is target the right company, because ultimately I think what I see is a limiting belief that people shouldn't apply to big tech companies because they might not have the experience or the credentials. But it's actually inverted. And so what I mean by that is big tech companies, and again, I'm not just saying just fan companies like any big tech, but big tech companies might have the budget to take a chance on a person that might not have all the experience in the world. So you might actually have a better chance at applying to Salesforce than at some startup that really needs somebody with like 10 years experience. So let's dive into step number 3. How to actually prep for the technical and behavioral part of the interview. Data engineering interviews are tougher than data analyst interviews. There's no doubt about it. It's because data analysts are typically maybe one coding round on either SQL or maybe even Excel, sometimes Python, and then the rest of it is behavioral questions. So it's a lot more straightforward, it's a lot more cookie cutter. Data engineering, though, can be a mix of like 7 rounds: Python, SQL, data modeling, some cloud, and then there's 2 or 3 behavioral questions. Here's the thing. If out of 8 rounds, 3 of them are still behavioral questions, that's still a huge percentage being non-technical. So you have to delineate between the two and say, okay, let me spend half my time focusing on the soft skills, because how you come across in the interview is going to matter. At the end of the day, you only have 30 minutes to impress them, and you only have 30 minutes to say to them, hey, even if I don't know something on the technical side, I will go out and learn. And they have to be able to trust you and be able to say, oh, this person knows how to communicate. Great, let's give this person a chance, even though they might have only gotten 80% of the technical stuff correctly, or 70%, right? I've seen anywhere between 60 and 80% on the technical stuff being right and them still getting the job offer. Now, the technical stuff, a little more straightforward. There's kind of 2 parts to it. There's the SQL and the Python part, which you kind of just have to get right. It's code. And then there's the more conceptual part, which is data modeling and AWS, for example, which is, hey, with these 2, you don't really have to quote unquote get the right answer, because there kind of is no right answer in a way. What they're trying to see is they're trying to analyze your style of thinking by seeing, oh, does this person understand trade-offs? So, for example, if I say to you, hey, how do you build a fraud detection system for Amex, which is an example I use a lot, you might say, building with Snowflake versus building with Postgres. They're going to be seeing how you think, right? Because if you think about it, they want to see how you actually analyze data or engineer data. That's what they're testing for. So that is how you prepare for the technical, and this is how you prepare for the soft skills. And here's one little pro tip that will be beneficial to both the technical and the soft skills section of your interview. If you know how to explain a very technical concept to the other 90% of the world that is not technical, that is massive brownie points. So if you're serious about actually transitioning and getting a higher paying data job, click on the link below, go to our website, check out our content for free. And if you want, book a call with my team and let's see how we can help you land a higher paying data job after we've already started helping, I think, 1,500 maybe students in our lifetime. So again, if that is you, great, click on the link below. If not, like, subscribe, share, and we will be coming out with a lot more content and a lot more free end-to-end data engineering projects, just like the Snowflake one over here, so that you can just go ahead and put it on your resume. Cheers.